Hi, folks. This is the Fighting Nerd and his co host, Jolly Roger. I had said before that I was trying to get a video out on every Saturday, but a day late because I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do this video. I didn't want to get political or too religious. This was about nerdy stuff and fighting stuff, and that's what this channel was supposed to be for. But this last school shooting has made me decide to do a video about school shootings in general and why I think they're occurring. Now, I don't have many subscribers and my videos don't get many views, but for me, I think this is going to be cathartic, if nothing else. And if it helps, maybe gets people to see things in a different way, gets them to think, that's great too. Now, of course, every time something like this happens, we get the gun control debate. None of this would have happened if gunpowder would have never been invented. And if we could just make all the guns magically disappear, then everything would be sunshine and rainbows. And now we have the change in the narrative. People are countering that what the problem is a mental health problem. We don't pay enough attention to the mentally ill in this country and the developed world in general. And that's probably true. But the thing is, when it comes to the school shootings, they are a symptom. They are not the disease. Just as the mental health issue is a symptom, not the disease. Now, what I'm about to say next is going to make some people angry. Or they're just going to say that I am an irrational idiot. But the problem is not guns and it's not mental illness, although mental illness is a result of the problem. The problem is a spiritual problem. And by spiritual, I don't necessarily mean Christian, though I am a Christian. I don't go to church that often, but I believe in God. My values are essentially traditional Judeo-Christian values. Although my mother and a lot of pastors would disagree, but that's beside the point here. And by spirituality, though, I mean all religion. Because almost all religions, and I'm sure there are some that don't fit this degree, but almost all religions have some degree of a supernatural element. And they almost all have some sort of punishment for wrongdoing, for people who do wrong and get away with it in our physical world, that don't get punished by physical authorities. And I think the lack of spirituality and the outright animosity that our society and our government, and particularly our educational system, has towards religion in general, and it seems to me Christianity in particular, is at the root of the problem with these school shootings and the office shootings, all the mass shootings, and not just the shootings, just the mass killings, where they're using, some of these people are using cars or machetes or whatever. And this is, I'm not talking about our problem with Middle Eastern terrorism and Islamic terrorism here, but I'm talking about these people like the Vegas shooter and the Cruz in this in the Florida shooting. And this is because without a force that is greater than mankind and his governments. And if you take religion and spirituality and the supernatural or the hereafter out of the equation, then only secular authorities are here to deal with problems. So if you are a frustrated individual that is being harassed or bullied or persecuted, whether that harassment, bullying, and persecution is real or just perceived, you only have really two options to deal with the problem. The state, in this case of a school shooting, that means the educational system, or deal with the problem yourself. And if the state fails, and there is no, for lack of a better word, divine punishment in the hereafter, then the people you believe are persecuting you are going to get away with it unless you punish them. Now, we don't know really what the motivations of this troubled young man in Florida were. They're still trying to figure that out, and there's conflicting stories. But I have heard that he felt that he was harassed and he was socially maladjusted and things like that. And certainly a lot of the other school shootings have said that there was bullying and harassment involved. And nothing was done. Or at least nothing effective was done. Now, anybody that's been to high school knows that, you tell your parents that somebody is bullying you, and they go to the teacher, and basically one of two things happens. The teacher or the principal blows the situation off as inconsequential, an overprotective parent, and maybe talks to the people who are doing the bullying. And that usually makes the bullying worse, because now the kids want payback because somebody ratted them out. Or they take some radical step and, or they just, nothing happens at all. And the bullying intensifies just because they dared to say the parent. And the parent is shut out of the system, really. He tells the teacher, he goes to the principal. And unless he really wants to that parent really wants to make a fight of it, he is out of the process. The parents are out of the process in many cases, unless they are persistent. And in that case, sometimes, the school system, and I've seen this happen in my own school system, not the school system I went to high school, but some school systems. When I was young, even before high school, I had a problem with bullying, and my mom wouldn't let it go. And the teachers made my life hell because she wasn't going to let these kids bully me. And in that case, it got so bad, and I was so nervous, and I hated school so much, my hair started falling out. So we moved. But not all parents can pick up and move. So let's just have a hypothetical situation here. You're a high school kid. And you're not like everybody else. You don't care about sports. you're not a very good student. You really just don't care about anything else that you're supposed to care about, right? And maybe you're being, you know, so you might have either no friends or one or two really close friends. And you retreat into yourself. But every day, there's somebody picking at you. Every day. Insulting you. Commenting on your poor physical appearance. How you dress. How you move. The books you read. The fact that you read it all. And I did experience this in high school. And before I go into that, I want to say, if anybody that I went to high school with sees this video, that was 3 years ago. And we were young. I may have been perceiving things wrong. Teenagers' perceptions are skewed to begin with. I don't bear anybody any ill will. And I know some of you still as adults, and we get along fine. But I dreaded every day going into school when I was in high school. Hated it. And I'm a big fella. I was a big fella in school. So very seldom did the bullying become physical. But I was a misfit, and a lot of times a misfit was my own fault because I didn't care about sports. I didn't care about any of the extracurricular activities. Really didn't care about most of my classes except for history and social studies and sometimes science. I had a couple of close friends, but they were misfits too in a lot of ways. We were nerds, D&D and Traveler and all that stuff. And didn't always have a lot of money, never wanted for anything, never went hungry. But my dad died when I was 3, and my mom raised me and my 3 brothers. So she was a single mom, working as a registered nurse, providing for 4 kids. So I had a lot of hand-me-down clothes. I had the most inexpensive clothes I could get away with. Then, Nike and Reebok tennis shoes were like the fashion symbol, status symbol when I was in school. Didn't have those. I didn't get a pair of those until after high school, and I got, last year, my first last year of high school, I think it was, and I got a job at Kmart. And actually, I think that was after I graduated. I worked in the high school cafeteria in a local grocery store before that, and didn't make enough to afford those kind of luxuries. I didn't have, I think Lee jeans and Wrangler jeans were in fashion. I didn't have those. Had the Kmart specials, and took a lot of heat for it. Not only did I not like sports, I pretty much despised it. I studied martial arts outside of the school, which some people thought was cool, but other people thought was crap. And I took a lot of crap for that from some portions of the school. But it was always something. And I remember vividly. One day I was in the study hall and I was drawing. I've been drawing for a long time. And there was a drawing I was working on that I was already really proud of, but it wasn't finished because it was coming out really well. And a boy, one young kid from the school, I'm not going to mention any names, decided he was going to screw with me that day and just came across the table, took my sketch pad out from under my pencil, and ripped the drawing in half because he wanted to and because he could. and I almost lost it. I stood up. I was ready for war. Now, all this time, well, I was facing him down for maybe 30 or 40 seconds. And there was going to be a fight because I was getting ready to go after him. The study hall monitor intervened. But I was the one that was threatened with detention. And I was the one that was reported to the principal. Because I'm the one that stood up and challenged. I wasn't the one that initiated that conflict. But because I dared to stand up for myself, I was the one. Because I should have let the teacher handle it, except he wasn't handling it. Now, they didn't punish me. I explained to the principal. He was reasonable with what happened. But the boy that really started the thing didn't get punished either. And that told me right there I was on my own. Now, again, this was 30 years ago, and I was a teenager, with, the emotions doing a roller coaster all the time. And I went home and I started planning revenge, and it was Columbine-style revenge. Had a plan, had a list, and I had access to weapons. But even as I was planning it out, and I wrote it down, I knew I wasn't going to do it. Just planning it was a way for me to vent. And that was enough. And why was it enough? That is the big question. Why did the teenage fighting nerd not carry out this plan? And the answer was religion and spirituality. My mom, God bless her, like I said, worked herself to the bone, providing for me and my brothers. My grandparents were the ones that effectively raising us because mom worked all the time. But when she was home and she was with us. And she was devoutly religious, and so was my grandmother. Now, as I grew up, I had issues with organized religion, and I didn't go to church. Last time I was seen inside of a church was about 3 years ago. I tried to get to organized religion thing again as an adult, and it didn't work out. But I'm fairly well versed in the Bible, and I believe in God, and I believe in Christ. And I believe that I will be judged, and everyone else will be judged for the deeds that they commit, any sins that they commit in the hereafter. When I'm gone, I'm going to stand before my Maker, and I'm going to have to account for what I've done. And I knew that the people that were making my life miserable in high school would have to account to God too. And that's why I didn't carry out my little revenge plan. Because I knew if they were guilty of making my life miserable, that they would be punished, even if the teachers didn't do it. If my mom couldn't make them get them to punish them, if they didn't, if none of that happened, then they would still have to be held accountable. They would still be held accountable by God. So the next day, went back to school, and it was the same thing. You're ugly. You're stupid. You're weird. Right? And it was the teachers, why are you academically uninspired? That's what they called me, and they actually put me in a special class because they said I was bright, but my grades weren't that great. Social studies, history, that kind of thing, but I didn't care about the rest of it. It wasn't, I can't say he didn't really care about the rest of it. It's just that I taught myself a lot of things. What I know about history, I really didn't learn in any school. I taught myself until I really got into college and had a couple of good professors. So I was academically uninspired, but the whole thing of it is that I was supposed to be normal. I was supposed to go after that holy grail that kids everywhere want to get normal. They want to fit in. And I was supposed to want to fit in, and I really didn't want to fit in. So I was basically screwed. But I knew that my tormentors would be punished eventually, and that let me endure. Now, again, for anybody that sees this that I went to high school with, my guess is you probably didn't realize what you were doing. You were being normal. You know, somebody has to make a snide remark. And there may be the one dick in the class that meant to really hurt me, right? But you were part of that social clique, so yeah, I'll put in a little dig too, right? Because I want to be part of the clique, and there's my target. That's just the way teenagers work, and I understand that now. No hard feelings against anybody that I went to school with. But my point is that the reason I didn't go off the deep end, like the Columbine kids and like Cruz and like the Vegas shooter, probably they still don't know why he did it, is because of my spiritual beliefs, because of religion. Now, and it doesn't have to be Christianity. The Buddhists have the concept of karma, which keeps people from doing bad things and racking up bad karma. And of course, Islam has very strict behavioral rules. Has very strict system of punishment for wrongdoing. Now, that has, the religion has been hijacked by a bunch of religious zealots, but that its role in that society to keep people from doing wrong is spiritual. It is supernatural, right? Because when you take the supernatural element out of it, when you take that possibility of divine punishment out of the equation, what are you left with? The only way somebody's going to get punished is physical punishment in this world. And in our society, that means government, school system, FBI, whoever. It means the state, capital S. What happens when the state fails? And in Florida, the state failed miserably. Now, there's all kinds of stories out there. And from what I've seen, 36 times the sheriffs were there because this kid was acting up at his home. Right? Expelled 3 times, and once for bringing a bag of knives. A bag of knives. Now, I carried, when I was in high school, full disclosure, I always had a knife on me. But you know what? Never stabbed anybody. Never cut anybody. I understand he posted, and like I said, there's a lot of things going out there, so some of this might not be true, but I understand he posted animals that he had gutted on Instagram. He was putting pictures on Facebook, posing with weapons, talking about school shootings. Left a comment on YouTube that was so disturbing that the owner of the YouTube site reported that the YouTube and the FBI knew about this kid. And I think in some accounts I read, there were two complaints to the FBI about this kid wanting to shoot up the school. Nothing was done. Nothing was done. This kid was able to go buy weapons. How? does that work exactly? Gets thrown out of school for bringing a bag of knives, right? There was another report where he used his air gun to kill neighbor's chickens, sicked his dogs on neighbor's pen. I guess the neighbor had like a mini farm or something, right? But the point is, this kid was showing all the signs of completely losing it. All the signs of completely losing it. And I think an argument can be made he was doing this thing because he wanted somebody to stop him. Yeah, and so the state failed. And because there was no religious, moral framework for him to rely on for justice. And he was already mentally disturbed. He was on all kinds of medications. But he still came to the conclusion that if anything was going to be done, he was going to have to do it. And I think a lot of the other school shooters and the people who perpetrate violence, who perceive themselves to be harassed or persecuted and bullied in some way, whether it's a mental delusion or actual bullying, they don't have a recourse other than taking revenge themselves because the state has failed them. And the thing is this: people take the separation of church and state, and have taken it so far that not only does the government not establish a religion, it has become openly hostile to religion, particularly Christianity. Think about what the signals that are sent to a child when he is not allowed to take a Bible to a public school, when he's not allowed to pray over his lunch at a public school. Later on, they're not allowed to have prayer circles or Bible clubs in public schools. Not only does that say that the school, he's not allowed to do that at school, that's telling him it's bad. It is bad to be Christian. It's bad to read the Bible. It's bad to pray. And it's probably the same thing with other religions. But Christianity is the one that's usually targeted so much. Then he goes home and his mom and dad are telling him, if they're one of the faithful, they're want him to praise Jesus and everything like that. So what is the child supposed to do? So what we've got is what the state religion in America right now is atheism. And people are going to say atheism isn't a religion. I do beg to differ, because I've known some atheists, and they're good people, don't get me wrong, but I know atheists, and they proselytize more than any Christians I know. They are always trying to convince me that I'm too smart to be a Christian. I've actually had people tell me that I'm too intelligent to be a Christian. Right? That to be a Christian is to defy science and defy reason. And sometimes, there's one particular person I know, every opportunity he tries to destroy my faith. And that's where we have come to this country. That's where we've come to this country. And in schools, it has led to this kind of disaster that we had in Florida and Columbine and all the other school shootings. Because these kids that are under constant assault, not just by the students, but by the system, have nowhere else to turn because the state has become God. Parents take their kids to school and drop them off. So for at least half of their existence, they're being partially raised by the state. And the state is a figure of authority. A teacher is a figure of authority. So what you have is a bunch of kids that maybe have Christian parents, but they're never sure, but they're being their parents are being contradicted by the state. And what we have is an atheistic government. Right now, the established religion in this country, backed by the government, is atheism. The state, capital S, has become God. And when the state fails, there is no one else to turn to. And the state failed. Without spirituality, without a religious framework to prevent moral decay in a society, moral decay is inevitable, and that's what we have. And that's the disease, moral decay. Without the supernatural, we're just upright tool-using apes. And that makes us pretty easy to kill, psychologically. It's a lot easier to get somebody to shoot an ape than it is to get somebody to shoot a person. And we're not people. And the thing of it is, once you take the soul, the spirit, the part of being human that isn't physical and can't be tested or measured, you take that out of the equation. We're just meat sacks. We're just no different than any other animal. No respect for it. There's no reason to respect ourselves, or no reason to respect others, so why not kill a few of them? That's where we are now. We have raised a generation that doesn't believe that human beings are unique and special as individuals. You can make all the guns magically disappear tomorrow, and it won't be too long before you have some frustrated individual that is bereft of spirituality, of belief in individual rights and sovereignty, and had the joy taken out of his life. Because the Spirit is going to take a life. In my own belief, God has been taken out of the life. Pretty soon there's no reason to look at people as anything but another animal. And we traditionally, now a lot of people love dogs and cats, but let's face it, there's a lot of people out there who kill animals, won't bat an eyelash. And if man is just another animal, and he doesn't have God's grace in him, or he doesn't have any kind of some sort of soul, he's just an animal. Kill him. You know. This is going to be a long video because it's a rant, and that's something that I've been wanting to get out for a while. But everybody has to have a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and that reason can't just be go to school, get good grades, get a good job, pay bills. There has to be something more. For a lot of us, thank God, it's still, we get out of bed because of the people we care about in our lives, the people we love. The people are counting on us for support. The people who love us. But in order to really do that, you have to believe in the soul. Because if you don't believe in the soul, then the feelings we get, the emotions we feel when we see one of our loved ones, parents see their kids, when I see my brothers, without the soul, it's just a biochemical process, and there's nothing special about that. There has to be something that keeps us from killing each other. And that is spirituality. And it is morality, not just ethics, but morality. So, unless we come back to a definitive system of this is right and this is wrong, this is male, this is female, 2 + 2 = 4. That person there has a right to be, who's a black man, has a right to be respected because he's a person. That white man has a right to be respected over there because he's a person. And he is special because he has a soul that God gave him. Or if you don't like God, then Buddha or whoever. But he's special. And he's special because he has a unique spirit. And it's not just biochemical. Right? Now, the atheists and the hyper-rationalists are going crazy right now. I've heard any of them listen. But I submit to you that even if you could prove there is no soul, you would do a disservice to everybody by proving it. Sometimes a belief in a thing is more important than absolute knowledge of a thing. There has to be a way. There has to be a reason for us not to kill people. There has to be a reason for us to obey any law that goes beyond just being punished. But if we do it anyway, there also has to be, at the end, sure and certain punishment as well, because we are flawed human beings. Some of us will transgress, and there are going to be some of us that get away with it when it comes to secular authorities. The state will fail, because the state cannot replace God or karma or whatever supernatural forces out there. It can't replace spirit, and it can't replace the fact that the spiritual being, the non-physical being, that what really makes us special, goes on after life and is going to have to answer for the fact whatever our physical self did. Well, that soul was in charge. Take that away, and no law, no police force, no army, no court, no government body whatsoever will be able to stop society from crashing down. We let the state raise our children, and the state is incapable of doing a good job of that. And it's just getting worse. Everybody has to look down and find that spirit. Find that soul. find that force outside themselves and outside of the state and latch onto it and insist that it be recognized. Because if we don't, we are doomed. I suppose I could go on and ramble, but I think I've gotten what I wanted to say done. So I am going to leave you with the admonishment to remember words make history. This is the Fighting Nerd and his co-host Jolly Roger coming to you from the Resistance Bunker, bidding you good night.